Namaskar and welcome to the Gita Satsang. Let us start with the Prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Sri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Gita Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let's chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय हरये परमात्मने प्रणतः क्लेशनाशाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः रामानुजदया पात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकम् यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्म व्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. With prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us go to our topics for today. So last satsang we had stopped at the 28th shloka. Today we will take the next 4 shlokas, which are shloka number 29, 30, 31 and 32. So here Krishna is going to explain to Arjuna about 4 consecutively higher stages of yogi. There are 4 classes of yogis about whom he is going to talk in these 4 shlokas. That is why we will take them together so that we can understand what exactly is the difference between each of these 4. So in shloka number 25 is the initial stage, that type of a yogi. Then shloka number 30 will be the slightly higher one. 31 describes yogi who is higher than that. And the most superior yogi is described in shloka number 32. So in shloka 29, Krishna says to Arjuna, Sarvabhutastamatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. So when the mind is harmonized by yoga, when the mind is in harmony because of yoga abhyasa, one sees equality everywhere. And such a person, such a yogi, sees oneself as abiding in all beings and all beings as being in one's own self. So, in all these shlokas till now, we learned about how to do a yoga abhyasa. Now, Krishna is describing the types of yogis in ascending order of superiority. So here in the 29th shloka, he is talking about yogi who has this quality of samadarshana. What is this samadarshana? The ability to see all with equality. Now, see all with equality means how is it that going to be possible? When we see somebody in terms of their body, in terms of their physical qualities, then we are bound to see differences. We see that people are different. Body is different for all. Some people are tall, some are short, some are thin, some are fat, some are fair, some are dark, some are men, some are women. So like this, the body will be different. But if you are able to look beyond the body and see every individual as an Atma, then that Atma we are able to see with equality, because then that yogi notices that the Atma is one. In the sense, all Atmas, whether it is the one which is inside my Sharira or the Atma which is in the Sharira of other people, for all these Atmas, the only quality that it possesses is Ananda and Jnana, and the quality of being subservient to the Lord. So, a yogi in this state is a person who sees himself being one with all other beings, and he sees others are also one with him. Why? Because his Atma also has this Swarupa of Jnana and Ananda, and the other Atmas also have the same Swarupa. So if this Atma is having this Swarupa and other Atmas are also having same Swarupa, that means that his Atma he sees as being one equal to all the others, and he sees all others as being equal to him. Now, here it is important, the Acharyas explain that we must remember, we must not get confused by this statement and think that all Atmas are one means there is only one Atma. Definitely that is not true. There are as many Atmas as there are Shariras. So there are many number of Atmas, but the Swarupa of all those Atmas are actually one and the same. So somebody who is able to see beyond the Sharira and see that all the Atmas are after all having the same Swarupa, such a person is somebody who has Samadarshana. That is the yogi in this initial stage. So, if you remember, we have talked before about the about the story of Rahuguna and Jadabharata. We know the example of Jadabharata, how there was a Raja who went to the forest to do tapas, but then he got carried away by a small baby deer, and then he spent all his time in caring for that deer and gave up his dhyana. Later, in the next birth, he was born as a deer, but he could remember his past life. So he only associated with the rishis and munis who were in the ashramas. And then, when that birth ended, he was born in a Brahmin family. And at that time, he was very cautious. Now he wanted to make sure that he does not again get entangled in these worldly affairs. So, although he was very intelligent and he had all Atmagnana, but he pretended to be a Jada. That is why he was called as Jada Bharata. And one fine day, the king of that place wanted somebody to carry his palanquin. So this Bharata was called there. And then he started walking in a zigzag way to avoid the insects and ants and other things on the path there. And when he did that, the king got angry and he said, oh, you are very I think you are very weak. That is why you are not able to carry properly. At that time, Jadabharata gave him a big, what you say, discussion happened between the two of them. Jadabharata gave him the jnana and he taught him to see that it is not the body which is responsible for everything that is happening, but it is the Atma which is the reality. So, like that, we cannot say if we get to the stage, if the yogi gets to the stage where he is able to see all Atmas as having the same Swarupa of Jnana and Ananda. If he realizes that this body is not the means of differentiating between people, but realizes that Atma is one, then he is said to be in this level of having Samadarshana. So, this is the yogi in the initial stage. Now, in the next shloka, Krishna talks about the next type of yogi. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachamena pranashyati. Now he goes to the next level and he says, he who sees me everywhere and everything in me, I am not separated from him and he is never separated from me. So now if we see the difference, previous shloka, he talked about how all Atmas are same because they all have the same Swarupa. They are all made up of Jnana and Ananda. Now, because we get this body where there are differences, and these differences come because of differences in our karma. Once the karmas have been destroyed, if the body is also destroyed, then from the Atma level, there is no difference at all. So, whenever there is Muktatma Swarupa, all are equal. Now, when a person does dhyana, does he think about his Atma? Does he meditate on his Atma? Or he thinks about other Atmas? Naturally, we are not thinking about other Atmas. When we do dhyana, when we are doing yoga abhyasa, our focus, our concentration is to experience the jnana and ananda of our own Atma. Then, how can we understand the Swarupa of other Atmas? I will only be able to understand my Atma Swarupa, isn't it? Here, the Acharyas explain that if there is a potter who is making pots and he has prepared the pots and now he has to bake them, so he will put them into that kiln. And at that point of time, after certain amount of time has passed, he will take out one pot and check that. If that pot has got baked completely, that means all the pots inside have got baked also. Similarly, we see that whenever there is sunrise, the lotus flower blooms. So if I see one lotus flower which has bloomed in one pond, then I can assume that all the lotuses in all the ponds, wherever the sun has risen, will have also bloomed. So I don't need to check each one individually. Similarly, if I understand the Swarupa of my Atma, I don't need to go and individually understand the Swarupas of other Atmas. Just understanding my own Swarupa will help me to understand the Swarupa of all Atmas everywhere, because they are all having the same Swarupa of Jnana and Ananda. So here Krishna is telling that somebody who learns to see that all Atmas, first stage, first stage he talked about people who could see that all Atmas are the same Swarupa. So, Samadarshana. Now, Krishna is telling that in the next stage, the yogi of the next stage is somebody who can see that inside those Atmas, there is Paramatma. That Paramatma is inside all the other Atmas, and all the other Atmas are inside the Paramatma. So, this indicates that the Paramatma is Adhara for everything in this world. So, that is what the yogi in the next stage is able to see. That is what is the meaning when Krishna says, Yomam pashyati sarvatra, sarvam cha mai pashyati. So when somebody is able to see me, Krishna is telling, me means he refers to himself. So somebody who can see the Paramatma everywhere, in everybody, and see that everybody is situated in the Paramatma also. That Paramatma is inside all the other Atmas, and that all other Atmas are situated within the Paramatma. This is the yogi of the next stage. Now, whenever there is an Atma which does not have the body, then it has certain qualities which it shares with the Paramatma. Now, we said it is Ananda Swarupa and it is Jnana Swarupa. That is one part. The Chandogya Upanishad explains that all Atmas have 8 qualities, and in these 8 qualities, they are same as the Paramatma. So, what are these 8 qualities? First one is Apahatapatma. First quality is that the Atma is free from sin. Just like the Paramatma does not have any sin, this Jivatma also is free from sin. Please note again, we are talking about all these qualities which the Atmas have. When the body has been shed, till somebody has a body, till an Atma is living within a body, it will have sin, it will have karma, it will get old, it will have disease, all those things will be there. But the minute the Atma is free of the body, then it has these 8 qualities which are common to the qualities of the Paramatma. So the first one is Apahatapatma, that the Atma is free from sin, it is sinless. Second, Vijaraha, it is free from old age. The Atma does not grow old, it always remains at that same stage. Vimrityuhu, it does not die. There is no death for the Atma. Vijigitsaha, it is free from hunger. The Atma does not feel any hunger. Apipasaha, it is free from thirst. Satyakamaha, it has infallible desires. If there is any desire, those desires are definitely going to not lead to a downfall. Satya Sankalpaha, the will is infallible. So whatever this person desires, those desires will take fruit. And Vishokaha, there is no grief, there is no shoka for the Atma. So all these 8, Apahatapapma, Vijaraha, Vimrityuhu, Vijigitsaha, Apipasah, Satyakamah, Satyasankalpah, Vishokah. All these 8 qualities are the qualities of the Atma, and they are the same qualities of the Paramatma. If that is the case, then does it mean that the Atma is same as Paramatma? No. Here the Acharyas explain that in certain important aspects, the Paramatma is totally different from us. In these 8 qualities that we talked about just now, the Atma and Paramatma are the same. But the major difference between the Paramatma and the Jivatma is that the Paramatma is the only one who has the ability to create, to sustain and to dissolve this universe. So whatever creation happens, whatever maintenance of the universe happen, so Srishti, then maintenance of the universe in that proper form, and finally Laya, the dissolution of the universe. All these things, the power to do that is there only with Paramatma. The Jivatmas don't have this power. And secondly, only the Paramatma is Shriyapatihi. He is the Lord of Sri Devi. So he is the only one. Although Jivatma may be similar in the other aspects, the Jivatma cannot create, sustain, and dissolve the universe, and a Jivatma can never become Shriyapati. Those two unique features are only for the Lord. Right? So now we said that this 30th shloka is telling us about the yogi who can see that Paramatma is inside all the other Atmas, and who can see that other Atmas are inside the Paramatma. So what is the practical application for this shloka in our life? We should understand from this shloka that whatever happens to us, good or bad, now most of the times it is through the agency of some other person that things are happening to us. Somebody, we feel that there are certain people in our life who do good to us. We feel there are certain people who do bad to us. So we are thinking that this person XYZ is doing good or bad to me. When we think like that, we are thinking in terms of differentiating them from us. But suppose we are able to be in this stage of the yogi, then what happens? Not only we can see that it is not that person, this person who is different from me, they are also Atma, and their Atma Swarupa is like my Atma Swarupa. Moreover, we are also able to see that in that person also, just like there is Atma, there is Paramatma also. So we learn to see God's hand in every event that happens to us, whether it is conducive for me or it is something which is hostile to me, whether it is good for me or it is not so good for me, it is bad for me. When something happens through another person, I learn to see God's hand in all of that. Somebody shouts at me, I have the attitude that the Paramatma within that person is chastising me so that I don't make mistakes. If somebody praises me, then I feel that the Paramatma within that person is praising the qualities of the Paramatma within me. So, like this, whatever happens in our life, we learn to see God's hand in that. And if we can learn to do this, then what does it mean? At every point of time in our life, everywhere, through every day, through every situation we are going through, we are always thinking of God only, because we are seeing God in everything around us. We are seeing God in all the events that happen to us. So then we will never be separated from Him. So that is what Krishna is telling, that तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि न च मे स च मे न pranashyati. From such a person, I never get separated. If somebody is able to see me everywhere and everything being part of me, then what happens? Whatever he looks at in this world, whatever he experiences in this world, whatever happens to him in this world, he sees that Lord is in everyone and everything is in the Lord. So then there is no question of being separated from the Lord. So then the Lord says, such a person does not get separated from me, and I never get separated from him. So this is what is the practical application, that we should be able to think like this and see God's hand in all events happening to us. So this was the 30th shloka. So we saw in the 29th shloka that Krishna talked about how somebody, the yogi who has samadarshana. Then we saw in this shloka how the person is able to, the yogi is able to see that in all the other atmas, Paramatma is there, and all the atmas are inside the Paramatma. Now, in the 31st shloka, he goes further and talks about how the next stage of yogi is. Sarvabhutastitham yomam bhajatyekatva भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते. The yogi who, established in unity, worships me, dwelling in all beings, he abides in me, howsoever he may live. So now, this is the yogi who has the jnana that all atmas are equal. Then he knows that these atmas are equal to the Paramatma in those 8 aspects that we talked about. He is able to see the Paramatma who dwells within all beings. And this yogi is the one who is always with the Lord. So even in situations, whether he is doing dhyana or he is doing other activities, see, it is not as if the yogis are all the time only in yoga. Even they need to take care of the bodily needs, isn't it? So somebody may be need to have bath for some time, they need to eat sometimes, they need to cook, they need to do other activities. So if somebody is this level of yogi, the next third stage of the yogi, then when he is able to understand that all atmas are equal and he can see the paramatma in all beings, he is always with the Lord. Because he is always with the Lord, even if he is not actively doing dhyana, he is not separated from the Lord. That is what the Lord says in this shloka. So, such a yogi, it is not that he will be in union with the Lord only at the time of doing dhyana. Even at other times, when he is not doing yoga abhyasa, when he is not doing dhyana, but he is doing some other mundane activity of this world, because his mindset, his whole way of looking at things has now changed. He is always one with the Lord. And therefore, even if at times when he is doing other activities, whatever he may be doing, howsoever he may live, at all times he is living with the Lord. He is not separated from the Lord. So, this is the third stage of the yogi. Now, in the 32nd shloka, Krishna talks about the supreme and highest type of yogi. So he says, Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati yorjuna sukham va yadi va dukkham sayogi paramo mataha. One who, by reason of the identity of the jivatmas, sees that pleasure or pain is the same everywhere, that yogi, O Arjuna, is deemed as the highest. So now Krishna is talking about the most superior kind of yogi. Who is this most superior of yogis? Somebody whose karma is totally destroyed. So when karma has been totally destroyed, then in that person, the jnana has completely blossomed. He is fully aware and has all jnanas. Because of that, he sees all atmas as being equal to him. Because of that, he can see that Paramatma is there in everybody and everybody is within the Paramatma. Because of that, he is never separated from the Lord, right? And to such a person, whether happiness comes or sadness comes, he is able to look at all events with equanimity. He is not affected. When Sukha comes, he does not feel elated by it. When Dukkha comes, he does not feel destroyed by it. Now, for us, what is our situation, ordinary people? When something good happens to us, we feel happy. When something bad happens to us, we feel bad, right? Suppose something happens to other people, to my neighbor, to someone in my uh, town, someone on who is living on my road. When something good happens to them, we don't get affected by that. Something good happens to me, I'm very happy about it. Something good happens to other people, I'm not really affected by it. Similarly, when bad things happen, but if something bad happens to other people, I'm not really affected by it. Maybe for some time we will feel happy for them, or for some time we may feel bad for them. But then after some time we lose those thoughts and we are not really bothered about that. We completely forget about it, right? Now, higher than this is the most ordinary. This is what ordinary, mediocre people like us, we have this kind of an attitude. Now, there will be some people who are slightly at a higher level. So, what happens to these people? They feel happy and sad for others also, whatever their situation. Something bad happened to my neighbor. I feel sad for them for a very long time. Okay, something good happens to my neighbor. I feel happy for them and I'm really feeling that happiness for them. So, that is the next level of people. But who is the ultimate yogi? He is the one who does not get affected. Now, just like something bad happened to others, I didn't feel anything about it. I should not feel bad when something bad happens to me also. Something good happened to other people, I did not feel affected by it. Similarly, when something good happens to me also, I should not be affected by it. So, common people are unaffected by things which happen to other people. But in this ultimate stage, the yogi is one who is treating himself like an outsider. So, when my neighbor had good happening to him, I didn't bother about it. This yogi is the one that when good happens to me also, I am not affected by it. That is the stage of the yogi. When bad happen to other people, ordinary person is not affected by it. But the yogi is the one who bad happens to himself also, he is not affected by it. So this kind of yogi is in the ultimate stage of yoga. That is what Krishna is explaining in this shloka. So here in this 32nd shloka, he says that the yogi, the supreme yogi, according to me, O Arjuna, I consider this person to be the highest level of yogi, the one who sees pleasure or pain everywhere as the same. Whether it is happening to other people or it is happening to himself, he is not affected by it. That person, that kind of yogi, is the most superior level of yogi. So these are the four stages of the yogis that we have talked about in today's satsang. Next, in the further satsangs, we will see what Krishna is telling to Arjuna. Now, if we notice slowly, there is a definite turn which this chapter has taken. Till the 28th shloka, Krishna was talking about how to do dhyana, how to concentrate, how much time one must spend in yoga, how to sit, what posture we should have, how we must control the mind, how we must pull the mind, all that he was telling. And by doing that, somebody will get to the stage of the initial level of the yogi, that you are able to see all atmas as equal. All this, what was being told so far, was about the individual Jivatma. Now, from the 30th shloka, 29th and 30th shloka onwards, Krishna has slowly turned the focus. Now he has started talking. If you notice, even in the 29th shloka, Krishna was telling that somebody who sees one's Atma as being same as other Atma, they have Samadarshana. So till there also he is only talking about Atma. But when he comes to the 30th shloka and further on, he starts saying that the yogi is the one who sees me in everything and everything in me. Then he says that I am not separated from such a yogi. And he says that however he may live, he is always dwelling within me. And now finally he is telling that the highest one is the person who is not able to see any pleasure of pain anywhere. So what Krishna has done now is he has turned the focus from focus on the Atma to focus on the Paramatma. And that is how this chapter is going to go further. And finally, at the end of this chapter, Krishna will, create the path for the next chapter, which is Bhakti Yoga. So now onwards, Krishna is going to start talking about how one shifts focus from the Jivatma to the Paramatma. So see, rather than being lost in worldly things, doing some little Nama Sankirtan, doing Namasmaran, doing Bhajan, all that is definitely good. Doing dhyana is very good. But in dhyana, when you are focusing on your own Atma and trying to get joy which comes from within your own Atma, that is the initial stage. As somebody goes further and progresses in his yoga abhyasa, he should be able to naturally move to the path of not remaining confined to his Atma. If his Atma is giving him joy, if his Atmanubhava can give him unending joy, then imagine that Atma is but a small mirror. It is an amsha of the Paramatma. So, how much more joy somebody is going to be able to experience when they start meditating on the Paramatma? So, that is the direction in which Krishna wants to take Arjuna. And that is why in this chapter, from this point onwards, he starts talking about these other things, about how one should start focusing on the Paramatma. So, what Krishna tells to Arjuna in the further shlokas, we will see in the next satsang. For today, we will stop here and offer Kritagnyata. Let us offer Kritagnyata, let us offer gratitude at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru for inspiring us to start and join this satsang. Let us pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. We are nowhere capable of doing any of these kind of being yogis of any of these calibers. So does that mean that we will not be, blessed by the Lord? Definitely no. For everybody, there is a different path to take. For those who are inclined to the path of dhyana, Krishna has been telling all these things. But even to somebody who is doing dhyana, ultimately he is going to talk about bhakti only. So if we are not so capable of doing dhyana, at least let us try and practice little bhakti what we can every day for some time in our life. Let us pray that Krishna will bless us to be able to do that, and we will meet again next week, next Friday at the same time. Thank you, everybody. Namaskar.